It started with laughter. Loud, careless laughter echoing through the break room of Precinct 9, a room filled with uniforms, coffee stains, and old jokes that had long stopped being funny. A group of officers leaned around a table, retelling the same story they'd been joking about all week. Some guy in a hoodie had been walking around the warehouse district again, probably casing the place or looking for meth. One said. Another added, "I swear, these people think they're invisible in a hoodie, like we don't notice." The room erupted in laughter. In the far corner, a man stirred his coffee. He was black, early 30s, quiet. His name tag read Malik B. He wore a simple hoodie under his jacket. Same as always. To them, he was just the rookie. Quiet, polite, always watching. One officer pointed at him and grinned. "Yo, Malik, hoodie guy your cousin or something?" Laughter again. Malik gave a small smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. He didn't respond. That was the pattern. He never did. Seconds later, the door swung open. A woman in a gray blazer entered with a file in hand and a voice that cut through the noise. "No one leaves after shift. Internal Affairs is conducting an urgent review," she announced. "We've identified a breach. There's a federal agent embedded in this department." The room fell silent. Cups froze midair. Jokes died in throats. One officer looked around, confused. "Wait, what breach?" Another laughed nervously. "They think someone here's FBI good luck finding them. We're as clean as it gets." Malik stood up. The scrape of the chair against the floor was the loudest sound in the room. He stepped forward slowly, hands in his pockets, and looked at each of them not with anger, not with revenge, but with precision. Then he said, clear and unshaken, "You don't need to look far. I'm the one you're looking for." Silence. And then chaos. A cup dropped. Someone cursed. One officer muttered, "You're kidding, right?" But Malik didn't blink. He pulled a small device from his hoodie and placed it on the table. The screen lit up with a simple label, FBI Operations Log 9A, active recording. The same hoodie they joked about had been carrying their downfall the entire time. He turned to the woman in the gray blazer, who now smiled, just barely. "We're ready to proceed," Malik said. That was the day. Everything changed for Precinct 9. But for Malik Bryant, it had been changing from the moment they laughed at the hoodie, not knowing it was hiding the man sent to expose them all. Precinct 9 sat in the heart of a city that pretended to forget its history. Red brick buildings, chain-link fences, murals of justice on walls cracking with silence. Outside, sirens came and went like birds loud. Routine, then gone. Inside, the culture was colder. Rules were flexible. Loyalty was currency. Malik Bryant walked in on his first day with a blank file and a federal directive: get close. Stay silent. Document everything. They called him Rookie, quiet guy, sometimes hoodie boy. He didn't mind. He made himself easy to ignore. That was the strategy. He wore plain clothes. He didn't challenge anyone. When they made jokes, he laughed politely. When they barked orders, he followed. But when they thought he wasn't listening, that's when he listened the hardest. Malik had done this before. He was one of the Bureau's most trusted deep cover agents for a reason. He didn't come from privilege or prep school. He came from the Bronx, raised by a single mother who taught him two lessons: be invisible when they expect noise, and be the sharpest mind in the room when they expect none. That mindset got him through Quantico. It also got him here, He was planted in Precinct 9 for a reason. Over the last 2 years, complaints against the squad had piled up like garbage in alleyways. Excessive force, racial profiling, mysterious injuries that were resisting arrest, and not one officer had faced serious consequences. Every file hit a wall, then vanished, until someone upstairs got tired of cover stories and sent Malik in. His cover was perfect. New transfer, fresh from out of state. No family ties, just a man looking to serve. No one bothered to dig deeper. They were too busy maintaining their own image. The squad was tight-knit, loud, proud, and full of rituals. There were jokes you didn't question, stories you didn't ask about, and cases that never made the report. Malik watched it all. It didn't take long for the patterns to show. Patrols always shifted heavier in black neighborhoods, regardless of call volume. Officers shared text chains with memes mocking people they'd arrested. There were jokes about planting a little help in the back seat if a suspect got mouthy. Malik documented everything, every comment, every shift log, every missed protocol. It was slow work, but it was real. The hardest part wasn't gathering evidence. It was staying still while it happened. One night, Malik watched two officers stop a 15-year-old black kid walking home from his after-school job. They asked him why his hoodie was up. He said it was raining. They told him to sit on the curb while they ran his name. 30 minutes. No charges. Just a warning. Next time, don't act suspicious. The kid nodded, then walked away slower than he had before. Malik clenched his fists in his pockets. He couldn't intervene. Not yet. Not without blowing the whole operation. He wrote it down instead. Page 137 in his field notes. Black male, 15. No record. Stopped for Hoodie. Held for appearance. The week had started like every other coffee. Chatter and quiet assumptions. But then came the pressure, a quota push from downtown. 10 arrests this week. No excuses, said the sergeant. They were low on numbers and high on pride. The team started scanning for easy targets. Malik listened as a few officers circled a plan around a man who'd been sleeping behind a gas station, a black veteran with no home and no charges. We plant, we pick him up, we process. Done before lunch, one of them said. Another joked. He won't even remember it tomorrow. Malik kept his voice calm. That doesn't feel clean. They laughed. Welcome to the game. Rookie. He watched them prepare a Ziploc bag. Pills nobody would trace. A wallet with no ID. The plan was to drop it under the man's blanket and then discover it during a routine sweep. Malik didn't flinch. He nodded, asked a few harmless questions, and left the room. What they didn't know was that his hoodie had a mic sewn under the seam. That whole conversation, every word, every laugh was already backed up on 2 federal servers before their shift even started. Malik had enough for a preliminary file. He knew the next step: report it quietly, carefully, through an assigned bureau contact. But the first attempt failed. His report didn't make it. His encrypted file was accessed, tampered with. The wrong people knew too early. Within days, a whisper spread through the station. Someone's been talking. Eyes got sharper. Conversation stopped when he walked in. Then came the warning. A burner phone message. 4 words. Leave or go silent. Malik knew what that meant. Someone upstairs higher than patrol was watching his move. He'd underestimated how far the rot reached, and that meant his cover was no longer safe. He had to move faster. He stayed late one night and noticed a captain's door cracked open. Inside, the internal complaint drawer was half open. Malik took photos of the papers inside cases marked dismissed in red ink, most of them involving black suspects and the same few officers. It wasn't just bad cops. It was protected bad cops. The department's shield wasn't broken. It was being used as armor for people who knew exactly what they were doing. Friday night came with a last-minute call. Warehouse alarm tripped. Malik was sent with a squad of 3 officers. When they arrived, they split up standard procedure, except Malik's route made no sense. He was told to check the back alley, alone, while the others swept the front. Something felt off. He went anyway. That was the job. But as he turned the corner, a voice crackled over the radio. Subject in hoodie, possibly armed. Malik froze. That was the call you make when you want clearance to shoot. He stepped back into view and raised his hands. Officer Bryant, 9th Precinct. Copy that. Who's on the channel? Silence. Then, fast footsteps. One of the officers rounded the corner, hand on his gun, eyes wide. Drop it! He yelled. Malik shouted back, I'm on your team. But the officer didn't lower his weapon. That's when Malik realized this wasn't a mistake. This was an attempt to erase him, staged like a justified misfire. Before things escalated, another voice cut through the radio. Female, calm, commanding. Stand down. We have eyes on you. Backup. Real backup. FBI surveillance had already been watching from a rooftop van nearby. They had everything on camera. The agent's voice continued. Target is ours. Malik Bryant. Extraction confirmed. The officer lowered his weapon, pale and shaken. Malik didn't smile. He just turned and walked straight past him, his voice quiet but final. You pointed a gun at the only person in this department trying to clean it up. Malik didn't return to the precinct after that night. He didn't need to. By morning, his nameplate was gone, his locker cleared, and his badge, the one the department thought was theirs, had been replaced with a federal one. He was no longer undercover. He was the storm they hadn't seen coming. The Bureau had everything: audio, video, documents, timelines. But Malik's report wasn't just evidence, it was strategy. He didn't want a showy takedown. He wanted a systemic exposure. So, the Bureau scheduled a mandatory briefing, framed as a departmental wellness and accountability session. Everyone showed up in uniform, expecting another lecture about body cam compliance or diversity initiatives. What they got was a room with no chairs, a blank screen, and silence. Then the first clip played. It was audio. One officer's voice, laughing about planting evidence on the homeless veteran. Another chimed in, joking about how the cameras always mysteriously lose power. The room shifted, eyes darted, breaths tightened. Then a second clip, and a third. All of them time-stamped. All of them recent. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" That's when Malik walked in. He wore the same hoodie they had laughed at, only now it was zipped up over a dark blazer. He didn't speak right away, just stood there. Then he said, "You remember the guy in the hoodie you joked about? You looked him in the face every day." He stepped forward. That guy wrote the report that's about to change everything. The screen behind him changed. Federal insignia, DOJ seal, an operations summary outlining misconduct investigations, pending charges, and internal reviews. Officers began shifting, some in disbelief, others in rising panic. Malik didn't gloat. He explained, 5 of you are under direct federal investigation. 3 of you are being referred to civil rights prosecutors, and 1 of you tried to stage my death. Every word I recorded came from inside this room. You gave it freely." One officer shouted, "You tricked us." Malik turned to him, voice steady. "No, you exposed yourselves. I just pressed record." The rest unfolded fast. By nightfall, 2 officers were placed on administrative leave. 1 resigned. The captain, who had marked dozens of internal complaints as unfounded, was escorted out of the building. And Malik he didn't stay to celebrate. He didn't need to. His job was never about punishment. It was about reflection, exposure, correction. Days later, Malik sat with a panel of civil rights lawyers, One of them asked, "Did it ever feel personal?" He paused. No, it felt necessary. Because when you grow up watching people get judged for a hoodie, when you live long enough to see it used as a shield, and when you wear it long enough to hide the truth inside it, then, yes, exposing what's underneath isn't revenge. It's justice with a zipper. Weeks passed. The headlines faded, but the echo didn't. Precinct 9 became a symbol. Some called it disgrace. Others called it the start of something cleaner. Internal Affairs rolled out new oversight protocols. Civil rights groups filed lawsuits. And for the first time in a decade, the community actually showed up to a city council meeting. People weren't just angry anymore. They were awake. But Malik had already moved on. That was how these missions worked. You come in quiet. You leave quieter. No press conference. No medal. Just a closed file with a heavy signature. He went back to the Bronx, walked through his old neighborhood with the hood up like he always had. Nothing had changed. Not really. Corner stores, concrete schoolyards, kids running across cracked pavement. But something felt different. When he walked past a group of teenagers on the block, one of them looked up and asked, "You that dude from the video?" Malik stopped. "Which one? The one with the hoodie? You were, like, FBI or something, right?" He gave a small nod. The kid grinned. "My brother said you made them all eat their own lies." Malik smiled for real then. "Tell your brother to keep his hoodie on. Just know what's under it matters more." He kept walking, past the noise, past the graffiti, past the places he once thought would never change. And maybe they wouldn't. But maybe that wasn't the point. Because sometimes justice doesn't look like a courtroom or a headline. Sometimes it looks like a teenager realizing he's not invisible. Sometimes it looks like one man in a hoodie, silent, steady, and smarter than anyone gave him credit for. Malik Bryant didn't come to be famous. He came to remind a system that people are watching, even when they're overlooked. And maybe the next time someone sees a black man in a hoodie, they'll think twice because now they know what might be inside. Not fear, not threat, but truth and a badge.